Today we're going to wire the Galt G200 series drives. We have here a couple of drives. This is a three-phase drive and this is a single-phase drive. This one's rated for 480 volts, 5.5 amps. This one's rated for an input of 240 volts and 7.5 amps. Now this single-phase drive has a single-phase input, but it has a three-phase output. We always encourage you to use three-phase motors on any variable frequency drive, but you can still run off of a single-phase input because the drive will create the three-phase output. So let's go over here to the three-phase drive. I'm going to push in with my forefinger on this little triangle here, and with my thumb and my third finger, I'm simply going to take the cover off. Now we have this little wiring separator plate. We'll pull the wiring separator plate off and you can see the power terminals. We've already wired our three-phase utility, so to R, S, and T. So it doesn't matter which wire goes where. You simply have your three phases, phase A, phase B, phase C, going to R, S, and T. Now we'll go ahead and wire UVW, which is your motor terminals. So we'll put one phase under U. We'll put one phase under V. And we'll put the final phase under W. Now again, it doesn't matter which phase goes where. You can put any phase under any of the leads as long as your three lines go to R, S, and T and your load terminals go to U, V, and W. Now this is very important. Please do not wire the power supply from the utility into the motor terminals. If you do that, you will damage the drive. The line must go to RST and the load terminals UVW go to the motor. Now we also have a ground wire. There's a ground that goes to the motor and a ground that goes to the drive. We have combined those grounds here on our test bench so that we only have a single wire that connects to the drive itself. But this is very important that you have a ground for safety reasons. Now right here are the control terminals. So if you're going to be using the control terminals rather than the keypad to start and stop the drive and to control the speed, this is where the wiring to the control terminals go. And on the analog inputs, you can configure them for voltage and current. There are some dip switches immediately behind these control terminals where you can change that from voltage to current or vice versa. Now once this is done, I'm simply going to put my wiring separator in there. I'm going to take the cover, put it down here, and then slide the cover into place. And we're complete with the three-phase drive. Now let's take a look at the single-phase drive. My wiring separator is already over here, so I'm going to pull that cover. You'll notice that the wiring is exactly the same, except that we only have two utility inputs and they're labeled L and N. N does not mean neutral. L and N are simply your two power wires from your 240 volt source. So in this case, I have a red and a black wire. The colors don't really matter, but wire your single phase 240 volts to L and N, and then the motor, just like on the three-phase drive, goes to UVW. Now here's your two grounds. We have one ground from the utility and another ground going to the motor. It's not a good idea to put wires this big under that ground, so if your wires don't fit under there, it's best to combine these outside so that you only have a single wire under these terminals. But if you're using small enough wire and you can fit both wires comfortably under those terminals, then that will work fine. Again, in this case, here are your control wires, and right behind this are the dip switches that allow you to set the analog inputs for voltage or current. Once this is complete, then of course I'm going to take my wiring separator and put that down in. Once that's complete, go ahead and put the cover back on, and next let's take a look at the motor. So the three wires that connect to UVW in the variable frequency drive come over here and connect to the motor in the conduit box. So we're going to connect those three wires to the three leads in the motor conduit box. If the motor goes the wrong direction, all you need to do is switch any two of these wires. You can switch them in the motor conduit box, or you can switch them on the UVW terminals of the drive, and the motor will go in the opposite direction. Now make sure that you always connect the ground for safety. And once everything's connected there, then we can go ahead and put the conduit box cover back in place, and we're ready to run the motor.